everybody? Welcome back to the Spinning Rack. I'm here with my boy Petey. Say what's up, Petey.
What's going on?
Yo, Petey, what's this thing we're talking about today? Tell
Well,
the peeps.
it's a tell-all book that's coming out. They're talking about the Marvel, about Kevin Feige. I'm trying to see the name of it, but basically it's going to be MCU, the reign of Marvel Studios, and they have an excerpt of it of what Kevin Feige said. He said the two people that he won't work with ever again. That of course, and that means they're banned. One would be, Edward Norton, and the other would be Josh Whedon.
I mean, I don't miss them as much as they clearly miss me and are probably crying.
Right? So this is the hot take that's going on, and it's just catching fire. The things Zach Penn did and complained about him, saying he rewrote my script, and they talking to the what's name stuntman to Edward Norton, saying he wasn't engaged and all this other stuff. And the truth of the matter is, with the Hulk, success has many fathers, and the failure is always put the blame on somebody. So I wouldn't ultimately. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I gave you the background. What are your thoughts before we get into this battle, which I know is going to be a battle?
I don't think it's going to be a battle at all. I mean, I think that you are looking at it the wrong way.
I didn't even say which way I was looking at it. I didn't even say which way I was looking at it yet. They don't know that we had a talk before this.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm saying that, look, the fact of the matter is that we don't know. We know that Feige clearly has ideas about how he wants to run these things, right? I don't want to say he's had problems with other studio execs, but when it comes to talent, he has thrown a broad net throughout the whole industry. He's getting all kinds of people. He's talked to everybody, he said, about doing this. And the very fact that he has not chosen, for example, in the Hulk, he has not chosen Norton when he's brought in Thunderbolt Ross. He's brought in Roth, who played the bad guy, into the MCU, but yet chose not to bring in Norton. Tells you a lot, tells you something was going on. And the fact also, we know the whole issues with Whedon. Whedon was a very strong personality. He had an idea of what he wanted to do. And let's not knock that Whedon was successful with the Avengers. I mean, look, the famous going around panning shot, the fact that the movies did very well, but in doing this, the director sometimes cracks some eggs, right? And this is what it seems like here. But again, this is Feige's universe. It's not Whedon's universe. It's not Norton's universe. It is Feige's. And if he doesn't feel that these people will either, and it seems more that is in terms of them working well with him, then so be it,
Okay.
So success is clearly it.
First off, Josh Whedon, right? Now, you can be at odds. Who was it? Gene Roddenberry was at odds with Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even though he had plans to lessen Leonard Nimoy's role, they understood that this is an important part. And you mentioned Dolly Shot, but what I'm saying to you is that Josh Whedon is so important to the Avengers. Obviously, you look at the success of Infinity War and Endgame and say, well, no, they brought it to bigger success. No, there were more characters. The hard part is the dynamic of the heroes, right? And that dynamic is what, since the Batman 66, when I was a teenager and I saw Batman 66, I was like, it doesn't work. I finally accepted, even though Captain America didn't work, Spider-Man was iffy, and the Hulk was good, but at the same time, I realized they would not be able to do live action superhero groups. They might be able to do one or two, but then as you saw, like the signature shot in the Batman 66 is them running the camera, and it looks as cheesy as I'm looking right here, right? So then you go to the Batman movies, the Josh Whedon ones, where they run at the end, which is an homage to them running in the other movie. And then you have Batman with the bomb where the cape is kind of flailing. So the dynamic of the live action hero wasn't working, especially in the group setting. So then the Avengers, I saw the X Men, saw Watchmen. They all still had those same issues. So I was like, we get to the Avengers, we got all this buildup. We don't know how this visually works because they haven't figured it out. But I saw, was it Kung Fu Panda 2, and they had a group shot of them working together, and they had this great reveal with it. It was like they come out together like this. I was like, wow, that's what they should do. And then they did a profile shot that worked. Like most of the time, they have heroes running to each other like a football game, and it's like you have to shoot it where it looks bigger than life, and that's what Josh Whedon did. So I know he has all those things that he's not a actual feminist. He used that to get girls. Hey, whatever your game is, that's the game.
We're not bringing that up. We just say he has some difficulties. We're not going to go. We're not going to
We
capitalize.
when we going through it because then we got to know why. This is why he's actually saying he's not going to work with them.
Well,
Right?
you think that's why, or are you just saying that he was just an a-hole in the whole production, and that's what I got.
He's a director. Most directors have to be that to get stuff done. If you mess up on the director's watch, you're going to get it. That's what's supposed to happen. It's not a thing where you mess up and the director pats you on the head and say, "Good, next time." You're wasting time, daylight, and they could lose money and be put out. But the thing is, the
I could say
importance of
that
what he did
director.
visually is very important. And to say I wouldn't work with him, he can keep that behind the scenes.
But I'm glad you said that because we've always had this discussion about directors, people being on time, focusing on what they have to do. That's what it is, right? And Whedon basically was very demanding in what he wanted from the production as well as the acting side of it. And so, hey, again, it goes back to this is the MCU that Kevin Feige developed. Yes, he has some other Me Too movements. I don't know if that's the only thing, but there's also from the way the book is being, from what the insert is basically he was an a-hole, and so people were not crazy about working with him. And again, it could be more than
No,
just
they were crazy about working with him. He was Mr. Buffy. He was the guy. He wouldn't be picked for the Avengers if he wasn't the guy. Like we can't act like Marvel wanted to get rid of John Favreau. Now look at him; he's a king over on the Star Wars world. So let's not get into this thing of who they wanted to get rid of him after the Iron Man 1. So it's like they always have been like this. They've been waiting, and they finally, and actually, Josh Whedon, no, Kevin Feige put his hat in the ring with the Russo brothers. The people in the Marvel people didn't want the Russo brothers, and then they had to figure out who's going to be the guy, and they decided Feige and the Russos, and they went to this big success, right? But at the same time, you can't get into the two movies. You can't get to the third without the first two movies. But they always getting rid of anyone that can have a voice because they didn't want anyone to have that control to be able to say, "Hey, look, I'm Christopher Nolan in the Marvel universe. You have to allow me to do whatever I want." So I gave you two hits.
Well, look, I heard differently. I remember reading the article. The whole reason Whedon didn't continue was that the whole issue with he was kind of burnt out after the whole process of doing like Age of Ultron and stuff like that. And of course, critically, it wasn't a huge. It made money, of course, but I'm saying it wasn't as big as they would have thought it would have come out to be. And some of his choices, I think they still wanted him to do the rest of the Avenger franchise, but they went with the Russo brothers. And we saw how successful those movies turned out to be. So I think it's Monday morning quarterbacking saying that yeah, they did want Whedon. Whedon moved on. It was just I guess the battles there continue. If not, he would have been running the whole thing for the rest of the time. Or probably was you have Feige, you have two big guys there. You have Feige, and then people are like Whedon is the one that made this stuff
Yeah,
hit.
you can't. You can't. You gotta. He had to kill Whedon. He
And
has to
then
get rid of him.
let's not forget what happened with the Jeff Loeb situation, right? You
He had
know,
to get rid of Loeb too. Yes.
that was all taken care of. That was the whole Netflix Marvel stuff that was there. And we as we can tell now that some of that stuff is coming back because fans really, really liked from Daredevil. I think they're gonna have
Well,
Jones is gonna be coming back.
he realized that he had a dud in his Daredevil Born Again, and he scrapped the whole thing.
Yep, and they're
They're
doing it
putting the
again.
Punisher in there just to make sure that's going to work.
Can't go around with Punisher, bro. Can't go around with Punisher. I told you about that. You know, bro.
So,
I mean, is it going to be the new Punisher with the swords, or is it going to be the old Punisher with
it's
the?
going to be, I think, the guy from The Walking
I know,
Dead.
I'm just saying in the recent
Oh, they're
comic.
not going to have the freaking funky skull head thing, that thing. But that's the key part to remember. And going into Edward Norton, even on his successful movies, he was working with the script while he was on set. He's a big name, so it was kind of taking in a big name. They took a lesser name. Mark Ruffalo had done a lot of art for him, but he's not a person that could come in and kind of take over a story and say, I want this, I want that. You see, he has no real direction. With the Hulk was saying, hey, I don't really, why should you give me a kid that's my same age? What, he time jumped? Let's not, he can't say no to this stuff.
Right, but remember, I think it was an article. I can't remember if it was Screen Rant where they were saying that the director actually wanted Ruffalo when they had the whole audition, wanted him over Norton, right? But the studio was the one that insisted that they take Norton, basically, because they wanted the name, like you said, the name.
But
So
Norton also had a direction. He wanted to go with what was close to the TV show. So it would be a Hulk person who was struggling with it, having this sort of tragedy and having the connection. But then they also had Betty in there. Instead of him meeting a girl, he had the wife in there, the person that was interested in him. So it was that relationship was a lot. The thing for me, what worked in the Incredible Hulk was the Betty Banner, Betty Hulk stuff. All that stuff worked. So the Hulk is this creature that's full of rage, and then you had Betty who was there, which is not the comic book dynamic. Betty wasn't the one to calm him down. The Hulk would inadvertently not kill people by pure luck. But I think getting it close to the TV show, even though I wasn't too keen on the call him David, that kind of centered the Hulk in a tragic thing. The only problem is there's so much negativity on the graphics and this, that, and the other. It's still watchable, but people look at the Hulk and say, "Oh, the graphics were so terrible. They didn't put enough money into it." Maybe they didn't, but they made a movie that was watchable. It had some Hulk elements. It had a lot of the villains which we've used in She-Hulk now. We're gonna get a whole Hulk movie in Captain America. So it's like, they're scared to do a Hulk movie, and of course they don't want to lose a lot of money off a Hulk movie. So
I mean, you're right, but let's take a look at the numbers with the Hulk numbers, right?
let me give you the com.
I don't know why you just don't give it to me regularly.
Because I had a screen up. Didn't you see I have a screen up?
Again, you should just give me the power anyway.
It's really getting on my nerves. How am I supposed to give you the power while I'm showing something? It won't allow me to do two things at once.
Well, now you're giving me the power, right?
Yeah.
So here is the numbers site, and they talk about the box office right here, right? So the two Hulks, and they're throwing in Ragnarok, which kind of like a semi-Hulk movie. The first one came out, cost in 2003, cost 137 million. It grossed 245 million worldwide. The second Hulk, 5 years later, also cost roughly the same. Opening weekend was, of course, weaker, but it ended up making more, just $20 million more. And I think what happened here is that they ended up saying that, yo, this is man, you took back the power so fast. It ended up being that the cost is that it probably wasn't cost effective for them. If it had made more, you would see. And once again, can you give me back the power again, please? Yeah.
I did.
Thank you. And so, but if you come back here and you take a look, if he had done something like, let's say the Spider-Man franchise, right? Where you have, original one doing close to $800 million down here. And then, then you had the Andrew Garfield one coming in roughly around the same. And what did they end up doing with Garfield? They ended up changing him, right? Because he basically made the same amount of money as the last guy. We're expecting you to do better. Whereas Far From Home was it I guess the Spider-Man, the third franchise of this, has been doing 800 million, $1 billion, almost $2 billion.
No, you're changing the story.
I'm just
Yes,
trying to say. I'm trying to say.
yes, they did, but Homecoming did
Done,
not
if
do
it
that
done,
much better
if it
than
had done
Spider-Man
$500
2.
million, he would have
It
done
didn't
better.
do that much better than Spider-Man 2. They were supposed to get to $1 billion and it didn't get there.
Oh man, so then but people, it was critical success. People liked it, and a lot of people went
It
out.
was not a critical success. It made the same money that Venom made.
Once again, you are looking at this the wrong way. All
I'm
right.
looking at it the right way. They just wanted to make a change because it was Marvel. They wanted to say we're bringing in, we're fixing Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a guy who's connected to Iron Man. He has a digital suit that does all the stuff. It's like Iron Man's suit without all the armor, and it didn't do that much better than the other one. The key,
I
we
think
have episodes we talk about where they say they wanted to get to $1 billion, and know when they got to $1 billion? Black Panther.
so. We're digressing again.
Yes. When Black Panther was also in the Captain America movie, and they went with Spider-Man first. They delayed Black Panther, and Black Panther got them to the billion first.
Okay, so continuing, because once again we were talking about Hulk, and so I think this is what happened to Norton. So we can't complain. The numbers for him were not as strong as
As
Ruffalo.
what?
Ragnarok did a
Ragnarok isn't a Hulk movie. You can't take the team up movies, which are used to bring in, hey, we got these two characters, so we want to make money off of those two characters.
So you can't count. So what did you count? Only as a Thor movie? You can't say it's both a Thor and
It's not a Hulk movie. It's not a Hulk movie. A Hulk
Thor and a Hulk
movie is
movie.
one with the Hulk, where they do the Hulk in the story. This Brave New World with the Red
It's not
Hulk.
Hulk. So this Hulk wasn't in the movie. I just want to make sure. Hulk can't be counted. Ruffalo was just on candy, right?
Um,
Planet Hawk, bro. That's all I gotta say. Planet Hawk. That's what I'm trying to say. They incorporated that into
no,
Ragnarok. They
no,
put two things.
no.
Hawk
That's the
and
thing. They're trying to maximize their money, but it's not a Hulk movie. It's a team up movie trying to use the cachet of both characters to bring in the money.
all right. So, question I have for you:
Yes,
should Feige change his mind and bring in Norton again?
it's too late to bring in Norton. There's no. He's like if we kept him in there and we got to see a banter between a passionate Bruce Banner, right? Not a guy who's secondary to Iron Man. That's the thing. The whole part about Bruce Banner is because they don't. He's very passionate. Like even though he's like the scientist, but he's extreme. He's way more passionate than any other guys, and he's also struggling with this thing. Where to turn it into, hey, you're a rage monster. That's cool. It's like he's trying to find a cure, right? That's what his thing is. And ultimately, he filmed all the scenes that were supposed to be connected to the Avengers. He filmed the Hulk trying to kill himself. He filmed the Hulk destroying the ice, and Captain America falling out. He was all connected to doing that stuff. So it's not like he wasn't a part of it already. It's not until we get to this stage where they're like, we don't need an actor rewriting all this stuff. We need him to be the Hulk to be what we want him to be. He shows up in scenes we want him to show up. If we spend all this money, we're gonna be caught paying for this guy, and he's not gonna be what worth. He's not gonna be on screen that much. So we want to lessen his part.
I don't know, bro. I don't know. What about
You
Whedon?
just like saying, I don't know, bro.
Yo, but I mean, what do you want me to say? I kind of it is what it is, dude. The question is, do you think this is going to hurt the relationship with um with Feige and Talent?
It it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's the guy. You know when they say the thing of the same people you meet on the way up is the same people you meet on the way down? It works the opposite way. The same way you're on the bottom, right? And Kevin Feige is saying to you, your work is terrible. You'll never work in this town. I make a movie that people love, then Kevin Feige wants to make a movie with me, even though he trashed me, right? You know why he can do that? Because he's Kevin Feige. So they don't care about, insulting you on the way down or when you're in a bad place like Josh Whedon. because if you fix it, because I'm pretty sure if Edward Norton is always rewriting scripts. He rewrote scripts for Salma Hayek. He rewrote American History X. He wrote, behind the scenes, he did a lot of rewriting, right? Josh Whedon, as a writer, is probably doing script doctoring right now. Same like Louis C.K. Anybody who has been any kind of infamy in Hollywood, they just turn into script doctors, and you make a ton of money, especially if the movie comes out, right? But if you then find a way to get your success back again, then he's going to be like, we had our differences, but he's back. And I mean, that's what Matthew Vaughn talked about doing X-Men, where he quit the X-Men movie, but then next thing you know, the person said he'd never work again, and then next thing you know, he's in a room. The person who said that to him, and I try to figure it's not Feige because he wasn't on First Class, so it couldn't be him. But there's only one person that could possibly be it, and the same thing for Christian McQuarrie. He came up with basically the framework for the X-Men, with Magneto being in the Holocaust thing, all the stuff that was in the comic books that people liked, he put in there. It was like they said it was a popcorn movie, and he started with Magneto in his version of the draft. They liked it. Josh Whedon, of course, gets all the press because he wrote some bad lines, and he wrote some lines that people liked, right? And then who was it? Christopher McQuarrie was basically said he wouldn't be involved in the X-Men at all, right? So then next thing you know, they did the first Wolverine movie, and it did. I guess it did okay, but it was critical. It was just trash. So Hugh Jackman is like,
trash.
huh?
What's trash?
What I'm saying, he was like, we're gonna do another one. Why don't we get the guy who put all the cool Wolverine stuff in it in the first one? And they're like, okay. So he came in. He brought in the script. They used it as most of the stuff he wrote is in there, but they changed it to the Wolverine. They added some changes to it, and we got the Wolverine. So ultimately, the way Hollywood works is, I think the way who's that guy described it, because going to Christian McQuarrie again, he's like he was best friends with Bryan Singer, and he had, since The Usual Suspects, they had a ton of falling outs. They had a falling out on the X-Men. They had a falling out on what's that thing on Usual Suspects. They had a falling out on Apt Pupil, right? So when they were doing there was a Nazi movie, Valkyrie. He was coming to the car and he would say, "Today," he said, "Today this is the person who's going to kill us." Like they basically going in there thinking they're going to get fired every day because he was producing and rewriting. So he's like, today, this is what's going to happen. Because he'd experienced it so much, and he'd struggled working with Brian, even though that was his friend, that he could go in there and he would say, this is what's going to happen to us today. And it would happen, and he would deal with it. So he started to understand how it worked. But that's the nature of the beast, where you're like falling out with people, and the next thing you know, that person's calling you up and saying, hey, I read this script, I'd like to do it. But Feige's at the top, so he can do it. He can say, I don't want to work with any of these people, and then work with them.
Well, Edward Norton has nothing to worry about. I think he's worth more than both him and Josh Whedon. I'd say he's worth, what, $300 million, because he had a lot of tech investments, and they paid off, and then they set up. I think the net worth for Feige is like 260, and Whedon's about 100. So, look, none of these guys really have to work hard. Edward Norton is like, yo, I don't have to act if I don't want to, because I'm already independently wealthy. And Whedon, he's not hurting for cash either. I think it's just more name in the industry, right? How if your star is shining or not. And I think isn't Whedon trying to make a comeback now with the Buffyverse, trying to bring back something. Now it's called, instead of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they're calling it the Buffyverse, I guess they're calling it.
Yeah.
Something over at I heard Comic-Con, where they were doing like a Buffy show or Buffy experience. I'm not sure what was going on with Charisma Carpenter.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other problem is that one of the people, I guess, the stunt man is saying that Edward Norton didn't want to be involved in the CGI scenes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really that big an issue, because I don't. Eric Bana didn't do the Hulk scenes. A lot of those scenes was Ang Lee. There's scenes where he's doing the whole performance, So it's like we're not calling out Eric Bana for not doing the Hulk scene. They use Eric Bana's face, but there's shots of Ang Lee like smashing. So, but for the Avengers, which I don't think the story of the first Avengers movie was that great. I think the whole is what makes the movie. The whole, the fun you had in seeing it, the bickering and the coming together. That puts the movie in there. It's a very simple sort of story, but there's moments, there's comic book stuff in there. There's so like Thor fighting the Hulk, that sort of stuff. There's so much stuff in there. I don't really think about Captain America and Iron Man being at odds, but it was a good dynamic. There's some things I wouldn't have gone with, but it's like you have someone that took the group dynamic that we've seen in the Avengers, we saw in the Watchmen, um, we saw in the X-Men, we saw in the Fantastic Four, and I think we with just basic things like having the one dolly scene is just the iconic superhero scene. And then in the next one, he had one where they were in action in the dolly scene. And he also had a profile, even though that profile shot was used in Kung Fu Panda, where he kind of slow mo and you get them all the shot. They did that in Kung Fu Panda. It's something that really is people should look at. And I think when you have the football scene in Civil War where they're running, it's kind of a dull thing. So it's like, even though I would say, as far as directing talent in the Russo brothers, they will be able to say, hey, here's the Black Panther. We're focusing on the Black Panther. Okay, we're Spider Man. We're focusing on it where you have all these multiple people. I don't think Endgame did as well, but they had some moments. But Infinity War had those moments too. When Black Panther shows up, it felt like it was a Black Panther moment, right? When Shuri's on scene, it felt like it was a Shuri scene, even though it's an Avengers thing. And then when you get back to Thor at the freaking thing, there's a ton of cool visuals. But I don't know if they did it was more Thanos movies, but they had it where you had the classic breaking up the characters that the Justice League did. Having the group dynamic and having them on screen and making it work and making it look cool is what Josh Whedon can hold his hat on. And to I don't think anyone else was thinking about me because I've said it 3 million times, and no one else likes to point that out. But I still I worried all the time that it was going to look terrible. And Captain America had a bad outfit on, and it still worked. There's so much stuff he did with Hawkeye, not looking the way like some of those visuals that he did in there, where I think I was talking with a friend. I can actually go to the quote and I was talking with friends about it because they were like, they brought up this thing, and I was just like how important he was, at least to me. And the first thing they said was, let's see, oh man, where is this thing? He said, I said Josh Whedon was the guy who finally got the superhero dynamic right, and he said, was that him or was just on his watch? Like that sort of thing where he felt like, well, it was going to be good anyway. And I don't think that the superhero dynamic was working perfectly yet. I think the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Watchmen showed you that they weren't really thinking about that some angles the hero doesn't work, the costumes don't work, and saying in animation you can make work, on a comic book page you can make it work, but you have to look at that and say some angles don't work, and you make them work for film, and that's what I think he did. And I don't think he gets enough credit for it. Other stuff you can throw in there, whatever. He's the guy to throw darts at, then throw darts at him. But
Nobody, I think you're mistaking. Nobody's saying you brought up a lot, and I don't
yes,
think
that's why
no,
I'm coming in
no,
here hot. Coming in hot.
nobody's saying he didn't. I mean, like I said, he helped to. You're right, revolutionize a lot of different things as a director. His view of how things should worked. One of the things that made the Avengers movies extremely successful. So I do have a thing with Ultron. But other than that, yeah, we agree with that. The question was basically, should they be coming back? And
What? Ultron was cool. That's what you got. What thing you have with Ultron?
so we come back to the fact is you know, Feige made decisions, and all the decisions that we can see have been successful. His recasting of the Hulk has been successful. Um, um, Ruffalo
Mhm.
has been liked, is a fan
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah, he has been liked, but he felt as it went along, it felt too much like Tony Danza. But keep going.
Then you also have the Russo brothers were able to easily pick up after the Whedon and carry it to the whole end game touchdown. So look, there's nothing to say about this.
Endgame wasn't a touchdown for me, but my financially it was.
You in what world did not? Yeah, financially probably not for you, but every other human being on the planet Earth said, yeah, you're the only one. The cheese stands alone.
At the same time, I would say you take your story from Voyager and Back to the Future, and you steal some scenes from a couple of DC animated movies.
Everybody borrows. We had this
They
conversation.
borrowed everything, so
It doesn't matter, bro.
it does matter.
I think we're beating the dead horse here. So I think
At
Feige has
Endgame, Endgame's the dead horse that
Feige
would
has
be
all
it.
the right to do as he did,
He's top guy, and
and
he killed every king that he had to in the Game of Thrones of filmmaking. Killed Whedon, had to kill Jeff Loeb, and then at the same time, can't let
climbing the ladder. There's a lot of bodies.
him.
He was a lowly production assistant back in the days of with the Punisher and Blade and as he moved up through the X-Men and all
And
that type
Stan Lee couldn't have done that. And Stan Lee knows more about story than anybody, but he couldn't make those moves.
of couldn't. So listen, let's wrap it up. So hey, like I said, I'll summarize for us. Yo, Feige can do whatever he wants. Spinnerack.
He's right. Out.